Okay, so you're new to ACE, and you want to get started with making ACE better than it is, um, or at least trying to learn how to program as you go along. That's fine too. Um, so what should you really look for? Well, the first thing you need is the source code. Okay, so you download that from Git, and then from there you need to kind of know how things are laid out. Okay, so let's look at how things are laid out. So most of the work that you're going to put into ACE is not going to be in the other 15 or so projects. Okay, it's going to be primarily it's going to be primarily inside of ACE itself. Now, there may be times when you need to go down into entity and actually change some things there, but we'll talk about that later. But for right now, uh, what we're really concerned about is the stuff that goes on right here. So the first thing that we see is basically we see the command, and so basically this handles like commands that we might type into the little text box that will do something for us. Okay, so we're not really too concerned about this because there weren't a lot of those that were available to players or whatever. But you still might want to program something for testing or whatever, and then that's where you would do that. Um, the second thing we see here is entity, and basically entity is takes care of a lot of things. It takes care of all the objects that you can place and some extra stuff, but a lot of the objects that you can place in the world and interact with. Okay, but of course there are other things like adjacency. So it looks like it's not really quite an object, but so book is an object, and door is an object, creature is an object, so forth and so on. Uh, you might be working with any one of these things, but it looks like a lot of the work has been put into player. And if you look at player is nearly 4,000 lines of code long. Okay, um, and then of course you see other stuff like vendors and stuff like that. Now, if you're coding something new that hasn't been put in the game yet, it is very likely you're going to interact with world object, because world object is basically um, it kind of gives a basis. A lot of these things inherit from world object. So you put it in world object unless it's something specific to that particular class, and you would just call it from, you know call it basically from world object, but it's inherited, so you just call it from yourself. Okay, so factories, and then so a lot of your work's gonna be in here, but you might be working in here. So loot generation factory. Um, so far, there's not a whole lot in there. I did do like random loot for tier one stuff. Um, it was flawed, mainly because I was behind like a pull request or something when I submitted it, and then I never went back to submit it. Um, I may do that in the future. Who knows? I may not. Um, and then you have your monster factory. This is where all the monsters are generated that you want to spawn. Um, Starter gear, that's where you get your stuff that you start your character with. But most things that you want to spawn into the world are going to come from your world object factory. And so there are several methods that you can create an object from one of these things up here that will appear in the game. Okay? Um, and so that's what factories does. Managers, I really don't mess with this a whole lot, but you can see there are some things in here that you might want to look at, such as recipe manager. I heard that this was pretty much done, and all that needs to be added are the actual recipes that make items. So I'm not sure why more people don't look in this, but my spell manager is actually going to be part of this as well. And then network. And so you will interact with network quite a bit when you're coding new stuff. And so let's take a look at what network things are going on. So here are your actions. And actions are things that are events that are sent from the client to the server. Okay? So basically, if you're abandoning a contract, you have clicked that on your client, and then the client then says, well, hey, we don't need this contract anymore, so the server should take care of that. And so it sends it to the server. Or add friend, or so you found a friend in game and you click the add friend thing, that message is sent to the server. So let's see here. Let's see something that we might have an easy time. So give object request. Okay, so this is something that I've worked with. I put this code together. It's not, it's nothing major, but basically, give object request takes a target ID, an object ID, and an amount. Now, how do I know that? Okay, so how do I know that? Well, the first thing I do is I look at the protocol. So Zeg put together an excellent protocol. He kind of filled out a lot of things. Some things are incomplete that I've found in the past, but if we look, give object request is going to be, let's see here, 00CD. Okay, so if I go to the protocol and I look at 00CD, I see give object request. And how do I know it's client to server? Well, it says so right here, C2S. All right. So let's look at this. When I see this, what I see is this. To me, it's unimportant stuff. Okay. This is the network stuff, and this is what this was basically someone else's job, and he has primarily finished it, but there are some things that he still needs to work out. But so you don't need to worry about this. This is something that you're not really concerned with. But the message type is, and so whenever the client sends this message to the server, it's going to send this data with it. It's going to send an object ID, another object ID, and then a uint. Okay, so how big is this object ID? Well, it's a uint, and a uint. All right. Now, say I don't really know what this message actually gives me. Say it's a new message that has not been handled yet. Okay. So if I went to 00CD, so the next tool other than this protocol doc and the actual code, the next tool that's probably going to be very helpful is going to be AC log view. Okay, so even though some developers said that it's unnecessary, it's already been worked out, it really helps me to understand some of the things that are happening when I actually look at the log view, especially when I look at the log view and I see that things from here are not exactly how they were sent in the game, and I see that there is a discrepancy. But so here, what I would do is I would go to Tools, and I would say find opcode in files. Okay, and so I would point it to one of my PCAP directories, and so that's something else you would need. So you do need AC log view, but then you would need some PCAPs to go off of. All right, so these are the network traffic that's been captured when Asheron's call was actually live. All right. And so what I'm going to do is search through that network traffic for the message code 00CD. So 00CD, and I'm going to start my search. And hopefully it doesn't take forever to find things. Okay, so already I'm starting to find to see some results. And I don't care about searching all this. all I need is one or maybe sometimes a couple of results to really figure out what's going on. And so here I'm just going to go with the very first one. Okay, double click that, double click that. Okay, triple click that. And so when I do triple click that, it highlights it for me. So here, I'm gonna go down to wherever it is highlighted, wherever that may be. I kind of saw it. Okay, so here, um, I'm going to click that right there, and sure enough, it gives me what I'm expecting. Okay, it gives me the traffic, it gives me a target ID, and it's already worked out for you. So it gives you what the target ID was. Okay, um, and then um, it gives you the object ID, and then it gives you the amount. Okay, um, and it's a UN amount, so it is 4. And this is the object ID. This is the target ID. Um, let's see here. Yeah. So from there, so I see that, and that's great. And from there, what do I want to do is, so I know what's going on. I know that this is who I'm trying to give it to. This is what I'm trying to give. And so I think I'm going to stop right there for right now because the video is already 11 minutes long, but I'll start up in just a second.